Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojo verse to Earth 616 to the Null Time Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I am the Uncanny Chris.
And I'm the friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. All right. Yes, it is volume 54, and we got some big news dropping on us minutes before air. A new trailer, Brent. A new trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Man, they heard we were going live. They said let's hold off to make sure that we can cover this tonight. And what better way for my last episode before I go on vacation for a week? I love it.
You know, I saw that reported today. I'm like, I feel like we just got a new trailer, but well, all right. I mean, I'm gonna watch it. It's not like I'm gonna avoid it. So I'm happy to watch it. I got my new Shang-Chi Funko Pop I got for Father's Day here with me, and I'm like, oh, it's all appropriate.
There we go. So, since we got a lot to cover in that last minute drop, we got to get some of our some plugs out of the way, our network plugs. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 9 shows coming at you 7 days a week. We got my show starting off the week with World's Finest True Believers. This week we had another creator spotlight. Dave Baker and Nicole Gu, who are the creators of the newly released graphic novel from Dark Horse, Everyone is Tulip. Clay and I talked about them, about their career, focused on some of their books. It is a outstanding book. It is something that, unless I had them reach out and say they wanted to come on, would not have been on my radar. So glad it is. They do a lot of great creator-owned work. So definitely check that out this week. And so next week it'll be Ranger Alliance, and then we will be back to World's Finest True Believers with a first-time network guest on from 2 weeks from now. So we'll be on the lookout for that. So then we've got DC Alliance, we've got superhero discussions, we have this show, Marvel Alliance, we've got Slice of Film, Star Wars Alliance, Weird Science DC, and Marvel Comics Roundup. I went a little out of order out there, so I want to make sure I got everyone. I think I got everyone. We'll go with yes.
I don't know. This way you do that part. I can never.
I know. Yeah, that's why I do that part. And I decided to go out of order tonight. That's what I get for doing it. So again, we got those 9 shows at that point. We're doing that every day of the week. We appreciate it. We got our Patreon. So we got 2 tiers, $1 for for a tip jar, saying we're doing a good job. And then we got a $5 tier that does our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and our exclusive episodes that are coming at you. So we want to thank our patrons. We thank your support. And then if you can't support us, we understand on Patreon. But if you can give 30 to 90 seconds to rate and review this on its own feed, Marvel Alliance. And I checked out the downloads for last week's yesterday. 85 downloads on our feed at that point, plus another 130, 40th plus on the GUA. So we really appreciate it. So again, continue to subscribe to the main feed for Marvel Alliance. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like the GUA feed, make sure you rate and review it on there. Every little bit counts. Give us that 5-star review. And then the last bit of paperwork is our sponsor. Our official sponsor of Marvel Alliance, I can't talk tonight, is organicpricebooks.com. JP and the crew over at OPB has got everything you need for your collected editions, from omnibuses, hardcovers, trade paperbacks. We got the Marvel restocks coming in. He had a lot of restocks coming in this week, including some this weekend and next week. I think the Age of Apocalypse companion that goes with the main omnibus that finishes out the Age of Apocalypse run is coming out next week. So he's got a lot of stuff coming in. Check that out for the organicpricebooks.com. And as always, if you use the code MarvelGUA at checkout, you get $2 off every single order. Packaging is immense, shipped internationally and within the continental US. Great to reach. You got a question, you want to have him carry a book, message him. He is very prompt at that point. So again, we want to thank him and the crew at organicpricebooks.com for being our official sponsor. All right. So we will remove that because, eventually we'll get to that trailer. But I think. Oh, nope. We got a few more things. We talked about our podcast feed. Let's talk about the news that DC Alliance decided to break to everyone at that point. They didn't take my subtle hints that saying, I don't know if that's ready for live for prime time, but the man of the hour, the head of the network, Travis said, well, they broke it out there. Let's put it out there. Yes, Marvel Alliance will now officially be dropping from here on out we will go live on Thursday nights, and we will drop in the audio on Fridays. So since Disney Plus has made that, we might as well make it official. Mr. Hines over at Super Discussions was kind enough to make the switch permanent, so we do appreciate that at that point. And so this will be our permanent home unless Disney Plus decides to change some stuff.
Sort of. It really starts in a couple weeks because
that is true. Because we're screwing up
the
again.
next couple weeks are a little different. Next week you're abandoning us for vacation.
It's our 10-year anniversary. I deserve a trip.
That's fine. I guess we'll give it a pass. And then of course, so Travis is coming in, but when we scheduled that, Loki was still expected to drop on Fridays, so we thought the show would still be on Tuesdays. We had to rearrange it again, kind of a little bit, not quite last minute, but a little bit. It's going to be Wednesday next week. We're going to go live Wednesday next week. We'll still drop the audio on Friday, but the live part is going to be Wednesday next week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the following week is a big week for us again. We're gonna screw up.
That's a week I'm real excited for.
Yeah, that's the week. So the next couple of weeks, again, blame me for next week. That's my fault. Next week, the following week, we're gonna blame Disney for that, but it's a good reason. So Black Widow week, we will record a episode on a Wednesday. So 2 weeks in a row, we're gonna go Wednesday live. That week, it'll just be reviewing Loki and doing our comic book corner. That's it. All news will be segued into the following week. And then we will go live Friday night at 9:10 with a crew coming in from the GUA network, all sorts of the GUA. Brent and I will be leading it at that point, looking at the first MCU movie to drop in over 2 years now.
Just over 2 years.
Just over 2 years.
Spider-Man Far From Home, at least here in the US, dropped July 2nd, 2019. Yep. And so this will be officially July 9th. We're both seeing it July 8th for Thursday preview night. Mm-hmm. Over 2 years.
Yes. So we are very excited to get a double dose of Marvel Alliance at that point. Both feeds are going to get the audio drop on Saturday morning. So we will, we're very excited. So again, next 2 weeks, Wednesday live, still dropping on Friday at that point. But again, the week of Black Widow, 2 Marvel Alliances. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll continue to remind you all that. But again, if you're subscribed to both feeds, one or the other, you're getting it. So, but we do appreciate, we got a lot of lively going on, and that's about Shang-Chi. So we better get through this Loki stuff. Everyone's chomping at the bit to talk some Shang-Chi. But I think that's all the plugs. So let's get into this. Loki, episode 3, Lamentis. But I want to say this one thing. Our brothers at DCA. We got something to talk about. I want to put this out there that, remember, Marvel Alliance, we commit to reviewing each episode of the MCU original Disney Plus content. Those guys on DC Alliance this week seemed a little shaky, uncommitted. Brent, I think you had another word if they were going to review every episode of Titans. What did you call them?
I mean, at this point, I've thought so many words. I don't even remember what I specifically said. But weak. Uncommitted, just not dedicated. I expect. I mean, sure. One thing, there's like 17,000 shows on the CW. I get.
We don't want that. We want the
that.
Titans.
But the streaming show, you can't do the streaming show. That's weak. Weak sauce.
To be fair, yes, they did commit to review the first 3 episodes because they're dropping the first 3, but they said they'd evaluate it after that. I want to hear their opinions. I think the listeners deserve to hear their opinions on every single episode. And if you want DCA to cover Titans, the hashtag Titans on DCA, let your voice be heard. Hashtag them, tag Clay and Hines while you're at it. Let's make it known that we, the fans, we, the listeners, want to hear them review every single episode of at the very least, Titans streaming, but every single DC streaming content.
Maybe not the finale. We can skip the finale.
Maybe. We'll see. We might give them a pass on that. We might give them a pass on that. So again, hashtag Titans on DCA. So, all right, now we got that done at that point. Loki, what did you think about this? This was. I have heard some people say this is a kind of a step back in a sense of a breather episode. Other people, I know Travis, I know yourself, and others have said this is probably the best episode yet. It's definitely the shortest episode. I was kind of surprised at the runtime for this one, but definitely a lot to chew on.
Yeah, spoilers, of course. Here's your spoiler warning. I wanted to see what happened with the timeline, the reset charges. To me, that was this massive cliffhanger they left us on. And narratively, from a TV structure, this is basically what I expected. This is, I thought there was two scenarios. I sent it earlier in the chat. Two scenarios were going to happen. Either we were getting the Sylvie origin story, and that first opening scene in the bar with her and the TVA agent, that's what I thought we were getting. So either we're getting that, or we were going to get a whole lot of Sylvie and Loki getting to know each other, talking, figuring out each other. That's the one we got. And you know what? Narratively, this makes sense because to me, we can't have this episode after we find out about all the reset charges. It's like we're taking just this momentary pause, do some deep character work, and then jump back to the main plot line. I thought it was a fantastic episode.
Yeah, it wasn't the way that, I was with you. I kind of thought that, hey, we were going to get the looking at the chaos that's ensued, but it's almost like I would have thought that this episode would have came maybe after or interspersed with the episode we got. But after seeing it 2 times and kind of a little bit watching it back and forth while packing for a 3rd time at that point, I more appreciated it each time I saw it at that point. I gained more of appreciation for it. It's not my favorite episode, but it's definitely not the worst episode, I think.
Well, the worst episode is whatever it is. It's a great episode.
Yeah, exactly. And I put worst in quotes. It's not like a season finale of Titans. So.
I think if you were going to force me to rank them, I would probably say 2, 3, 1 because we still got good character work in 2 as well and plot. But I felt like this was an important episode. We needed to see our 2 variants of Loki get to know each other, and I didn't want it to just be a 2-second conversation and done. And that's not what we got. We got a great. Overall, we got action. We got action with them fighting each other, fighting with each other, conversations. I mean, that scene at the table on the train, I know Snell was a huge fan of that. I put that one on my list of like non-action scenes that I absolutely love. Like I could have watched that scene for that could have been the episode, just the 2 of them talking, feeling each other out, like, oh, what's your backstory? Who's your mom? What was your mom like? Did they tell you were adopted? Oh, I knew I was adopted, but I really didn't see all of it. I was so there, like that by far is my favorite scene. And I still enjoyed the rest of the episode.
Yeah, and I think Brock kind of says, we have some in the chat like Nathan, Clay, and a few others saying that, it was okay. It wasn't what they wanted. Brock says, okay, okay Loki episode is still miles ahead of other comic book properties. Oh yeah, I mean, again, if it wasn't necessarily the best thing in the world, it's still better than most. But I did like the kind of things we got into with Sylvie. She doesn't want to be called Lady Loki. It's kind of like, you can't say Val, you got to think Val at that point. There's a lot to chew on in this, in the sense of like even the planet itself. The name of the episode is Lamentus. You and I are fans of the series Annihilation, and this comes from Annihilation Prologue. And I want to kind of say, outside of that, when I started doing some more digging about this, it may have a small connection already to the MCU. These could be Xandarans. Because the writing, I started looking at some of the writing and comparing it to some other things I was seeing online, and the writing is either exactly the same or very similar to what Rocket was seeing in Guardians of the Galaxy when he was on Xandar.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought of that part.
So, but again, outside of that, there really isn't much to this planet itself outside of an Easter egg for us, deep comic book nerds.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we appreciate, I mean, they could have just made up some random planet, which of course is all Annihilation Conquest did at the time, but they pulled the planet from the comic. I like that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't remember, just to be clear. I saw the name and said, well, that's going to be something from the comics. I wrote it down and I moved on. I looked it up later. Oh, Annihilation Conquest. Of course. But I love Annihilation. So.
Yeah. I've been noticing this too as well. Like it seems to be once we get, especially when we got to this third episode, the similarities between the path that Loki's going on and Thor in Ragnarok's been taking at that point. You know, they both are captured by respective groups, aliens or whatever. They're both forced to change, and they're brought forward to new leaders in the sense, you know, you got the timekeepers for Loki, and then you've got the Grand Master in Ragnarok, and now they're being forced to serve their enemy. Very interesting that they're both going down these similar paths.
Yeah, and I mean, you could argue it's even more than that. You know, like Thor ended up having to work kind of against, sort of with, and eventually with an Asgardian. Loki kind of against, sort of with, eventually with another Loki. You know, and not to mention the another joke from, I mean, that's from Thor 1, not Ragnarok, but still, just when he throws that cup down and says another, I was cracking up so
yes,
much.
that's another one. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to our buddy Ryan Airy. He, in his deep dive into the Easter eggs and things that were missed. I thought the song in the opening was really cool and it worked really well. But he was able to find the songs. He looked up the song's lyrics, and the song is called Deep Blue, written by Lady Tron. And the initial lyrics have some very eerily, that's almost like chosen on purpose. It says, Deep Blue, I want to take you to the sun in the power station at the heart of town. Deep Blue, let's get a train out of town to the place that's easier to get around. Deep Blue, I want to give it to you, try and make you laugh. Deep Blue. So key parts of those lyrics definitely occurred in this episode.
Very, very much so. You know, I've obviously heaped a lot of praise on this episode. Let me give it my one criticism, because this is something that typically will stand out to me, will bother me in shows. Some of the green screen work here, like you could tell they weren't using the volume. Some of the green screen work, that not all of it, but there were times, especially when they were just walking, like you could really tell the green screen there, and that tends to stick out to me. So I want to point that out to them there.
Oh yeah, yeah. In some of those cases, it was I wouldn't say cringeworthy, but it was noticeable. It was definitely noticeable. What are some other kind of some favorite parts you want to look at?
Well, I of course mentioned that the scene on the table was my favorite. Overall, it kind of felt like a bottle episode, just because it was so focused on the two of them. It technically wasn't a bottle episode. You got lots of different environments and different areas. I like the Tim pad. You know, it was just a simple little MacGuffin for the episode, for them to try and drive the subplot of this episode forward. And of course, does anyone really believe they're not going to get out of this? You know, I have a couple theories on how it might, but it's probably ultimately going to be something as simple as Mobius finds them, because Mobius knows to look at apocalypses. And so they're probably going to find them. And the way time travel works, Mobius could have spent 20 years looking for them in different ones and then showed up before they go. So I'm not worried about that, but just seeing it, the one shot sequence at the end, which I'm sure wasn't a one shot, but was edited that way. I'm a sucker for those. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was very well filmed. If it wasn't just one shot, which is always hard for me to believe, especially with what they were dealing with at that point. They did it editing really, really good job. Sawborn Sanchez in the chat saying the quote unquote "love is a dagger" line was really good. Love seems to be a theme. We had the love quote from Vision in the season finale of WandaVision. So love's always coming.
But love is not a dagger. That wasn't the best work.
Let's give a little shout out to the theory we had last week, all three of us, about the who the TVA workers are. Confirmed, they're variants. And I remembered why is Mobius always focusing on the jet skis, the 90s cola, things like that. He's a variant. But is he the only Mobius?
I don't think so. You know, last week there was you got little trinkets or whatever they called it, trophies from other analysts. I bet those other analysts are variants. of
Yeah,
Mobius.
it would be very interesting, and it was just the way I loved how they kind of, especially the opening with Sylvie trying to basically break the 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 hunter at that point to find out whether who's guarding, how many guards are guarding the timekeepers.
Yeah, I really thought that was going to be like, oh, we're getting Sylvie backstory, Sylvie origin story, and so we actually jump back a little bit in the sequence in the time of the show, finding out what's there because they found her late in last episode, and she was basically had been driven mad. The whole enchanting stuff that she does, Loki seemed very interested in that. And if you think about it, he had just effectively done something similar very recently in his timeline, Avengers 2012, by using the scepter with the Mind Stone to enchant, to mind control Hawkeye, Selvig, and several other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And it's like, well, that was pretty effective for me there. If I could do it without this, if I could learn to do this with just my own power, that would be something. I really think we're going to see him try and do it, maybe as early as next week.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where he's just more impressed. Like, what do you mean you taught yourself? Like, how do you teach yourself to do something like that? Like, it goes back to, again, that table conversation. I know, you said it offline. I know Travis said it on Geekverse, talking about like this definitely goes into, possibly sneaks into my top 10 of favorite non-action MCU scenes, just because of just so much is revealed in just a simple conversation,
right?
Like the confirmation. We already kind of saw it in the kind of press for like Loki's, like, was it his personnel file saying gender fluid, when she says maybe there's a princess or a prince, and he basically says there's been some from time to time.
Yeah,
but
a bit of both, a bit of both. And that's fantastic, because let's call it where it is. An area of representation that Marvel has definitely been lacking in has been in gender identities and sexual identities, and just in general LGBTQ. And yes, I know about like Joe Russo and Avengers Endgame. I'm sorry, that's not the same thing. It's fine, it's cool that it's there, but it's not the same thing as having one of your
it's a background character.
And in this case, yeah, that's a background character. This is the lead of one of your properties, and a major, hugely popular villain, one of the probably maybe the top favorite villain overall. Maybe he's number 2 behind Thanos. It's a huge deal. And you know what? I think they actually kind of confirmed, or at least heavily implied, that Sylvie is bi as well. Because when he said, "Oh, a bit of both," and I suspect the same as you, she just sort of smiled. She didn't technically confirm it, but she didn't say no either. So at least on a second watch, that's how I took it.
And I want to also say, we've also, it's never, I don't think it's been as rightly said, but Valkyrie is also bisexual.
Yeah, I don't quite give him credit for that one yet.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not as overt yet. It's not an admission.
They haven't said, they really haven't said anything yet in the show. They've said, oh, there was a deleted scene, but that didn't make the cut. It's not part of them. Just because it's deleted, they may have filmed it, but I'm sorry. It's like, you got to put it in the movie. And I know Thor said she needs her king. I know at Comic-Con, she commented on needing her queen or something like that, because she's now the king of Asgard. But yes, she will be there. It will absolutely count. I think we will see it in the next Thor movie. I can't quite give them that credit yet for that one.
No, it's not. And I may have misspoke. I think lesbian, but I've heard both. I've heard bisexual, I've heard lesbian, whatever it is, when it finally does happen in Love and Thunder, because I'm with you. I'm almost confident it's supposed to happen. I mean, great. We're going to build on these characters. It's a start. Let's keep doing it. And again, this seems very believable. It does not seem shoehorned in at all. And I think that's what makes it more meaningful.
Right. Of all the properties, there's that thing in the credits, the file that mentioned that his sex is fluid. Loki does seem like the prime character to do it with first. He's got that comic background. It's an important moment. It is, and it should be recognized. And does Marvel have farther to go? Absolutely, they have farther to go. But I'm not going to criticize them for being late when I could have criticized them for never showing up. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they have to start at some time. I'm glad they finally did. Now let's just see more of that. We know more's coming, of course, but let's just see more of that.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the interesting things in the conversation at that point. I love the line that she's dating a postman, and I kind of wrote in our notes saying, did Sylvie basically say she was dating Stan Lee?
The joke I liked was that she confirmed she's dating the delivery guy from WandaVision.
Yep. Oh, okay. All right. I'll take that. I like the Stan Lee just because it's just like, oh, it's our FedEx guy looking for Tony Stank.
A line that I noticed earlier was talking about Sylvie was just talking about Lamentus being destroyed. She commented on the collapse of society in the face of annihilation. And on my second watch, I was like, oh, annihilation. That's probably a coincidence more than anything, but it stuck out to me.
Yeah, for those fans who are Doctor Who, there's lots of homages to quarries are a big part of their set pieces in the Doctor Who series. Loki is a consultant for the TVA, much like Doctor Who is a consultant for the unit. Also a big thing, and I kind of picked up on this as well my second time, is a lot of themes from the series Snowpiercer and the movie Snowpiercer, where the rich are given special treatment, including the garb of the train workers are wearing, are very similar to the series in Snowpiercer. I've seen a few episodes, but it was enough for me to kind of pick up on those things.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Snowpiercer movie or the show. Seemed like an interesting premise. I just haven't gotten around to it. And if I'm being honest, I don't know when it'll be. But I mean, I know that several different sci-fi related things have been influences on the show. We can see it. I was texting with Brock about it and about this episode, and he basically is like, this was a wonderful episode of Doctor Who. And so I'm like, I'll take your word for it. I've never seen a single, I think saw a clip once, maybe a part of a trailer. It's like, I've never watched Doctor Who, but I'll take his word for it. And that's great. That's fine. I didn't hear, he was the first who mentioned it to me, but I heard others say it, and it was always like a compliment, because people who like Doctor Who, and it was treated as a compliment. So yeah, if they're homaging Doctor Who at all, that's great. I think that's a wonderful thing. Definitely interest for those fans, and that's a massive fan base to appeal to. So I think that makes sense.
Definitely. But before we continue on our deep dive into this episode, we're going to take our first ad break. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down so you can save those eardrums. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So we're back. What else do we got to talk about? We kind of, we left off at the anything more at the conversation with the diner table, or do you want to kind of head on to some other parts?
Actually, I want to jump back real quick.
Yeah.
When Sylvie first was in the TVA, taking out the guards, headed for those golden elevator doors, right? She tried to enchant one of the agents, and she had this look of surprise on her face when it didn't work. We who've seen the last 2 episodes, we know, well, it's like their magic doesn't work there. I'm just a little surprised. Like, she seems to know a lot about them, so I'm surprised that she didn't know her magic would not be working there.
Yeah, that definitely caught me the second time at that point, wondering why. And I also love it when she's holding Loki hostage and saying, "I'll kill him," and Renslayer's like, "Go ahead, I don't care. You're going to do me a favor."
Yep. Yeah, good. Solve that problem.
So trying to think of I think I've got oh yeah. And this might get to one of our questions, so we might end up answering it at that point. Loki talking about Frigga, his mom, in the way almost to forgive himself for his role in her death in Thor: The Dark World. Speaking of her very, very kind, I don't think he ever had a bad word to say about his mother, his adopted mother. But also, Loki assumes Sylvie is talking about Frigga and Odin, but I'm not so sure about that because she never mentions Thor.
Yeah, and I think we had a question on that, right? Yeah, Travis Snell, why did Loki not ask Sylvie about Thor, along with why didn't she bring Thor up? I feel like Loki should ask about Thor. Loki, I think, should have asked about Thor, because if there's one person that Loki was closer to than Frigga, it was probably Thor. That said, I don't think she would bring him up. She seemed very, very guarded, very, very private, and like she was trying to only divulge just enough information to keep Loki along until she could get the Timpad, or until she could get him, until he could help her achieve the objective of getting to the Ark. So I'm not terribly surprised she wouldn't have brought Thor up. That said, I'm going to go ahead and use this moment to bring up speculation. Speculation station, whatever you want to call it.
Put that tinfoil hat on.
Tinfoil. I need to get one of those tinfoil hats going on. I'm not convinced she is a Loki.
I'm not either. I'll accept her for right now, but I'm still not 100% there.
I believe that she thinks she's a Loki, but if she didn't seem to have any specifics, like and I know I just said how private she was, but she basically just said like she was a kid when she found out she was adopted, and that's pretty much all I felt like we got from her. As she taught herself. I gotta wonder, and this is using some outside knowledge, but we know that like Richard E. Grant was cast, right? And a lot of people have wondered, is he an older version of Loki? And I'm thinking back, and I'm thinking about the Loki Agents of Asgard show or comic series that we've been reading for the show. And in that, there's King Loki, an older version of Loki from the future who is messing with time and trying to manipulate it to ensure his own existence. And he's trying to keep the younger Loki from, let's say, going down a better path. Well, also in the comics, I think we talked about this last week, Loki gave Sylvie her powers, turning her into an enchantress. They kept talking about it. So I'm just wondering, like, what if we're kind of mixing and matching here, and we have an old King Loki who has gone back and given Sylvie her powers. So like last week, I was all about like King is behind the TVA. Maybe it is this older version of Loki, and he's just trying to manipulate. It is the sacred timeline, but it's his sacred timeline he's trying to keep intact. And so I'm just, again, I'm not married to this idea. I'm not married to the King idea. I really feel like there are very strong possibilities that we can reason out. And part of me thinks old man Loki turning Sylvie into this other Loki to help steer things along in the past the way he wants, manipulating her. I wouldn't at all be surprised to find out that just like the TVA agents, Sylvie is just another person from Earth who got caught up in this grander scheme.
Yeah, I thought that. Another thing is she's a hunter that came to realization and broke from the ranks.
Only call out there is she would have known about the magic. Maybe it's a continuity error. Someone didn't catch it. I can't get past it. She was so visibly surprised.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think it's a very, very good theory. Again, we haven't seen quote unquote old Loki, quote unquote King Loki at that point. So next 2 episodes, I say we're definitely getting him in it at least.
And those are the episodes that Hiddleston himself, when asked what's like your favorite episode, he said 4 and 5.
Well, good thing I'll be back for one of them.
Yeah, we'll end up with all the major revelations next week while you're gone. Snell and I'll geek out about them, and then
that's fine.
I'll come back for 5.
That's fine. I'll get a couple of minutes to geek out when I return.
I do want to know. Do you think Sylvie has killed any other Lokis? Mobius made it sound like he certainly gave heavily implications that the Loki that we're following is not their first Loki, right? He's like, oh, I've dealt with Lokis before. He looked like this. He looked like that. Well, where did they go? What happened to them?
Yeah, I mean, is it possible? Sure. I mean, she's definitely a very capable fighter. Definitely more capable than our Loki at this point, 2012 Loki. She used when she's fighting the guys on the train. She even uses her horns, excuse me, because one of them's broken off, against the police, like Loki did in Ragnarok. So it's very interesting. Sabon Sanchez says maybe the magic not working was something that they had recently added after she left the TVA, and that's why she didn't know.
Plausible. Yep. Can't rule it out for sure.
Yeah. So they get thrown. Well, Loki gets thrown from the train, and Sylvie goes jumping after him because he's got the device, and the device is broken, and now they gotta figure out what they're gonna do.
And this is when they just walk for a while. They get to know, and that's when she she drops the bomb that she had to. Sometimes with her enchantments, she has to create visuals and hallucinations and go back. And in this case, the case of the TVA agent, she had to go back hundreds of years from before she was one of the agents. And this was just a mind-blowing moment for Loki, confirming our theories. You mentioned earlier that all the TVA agents, or at least according to Sylvie, are not actually TVA agents. They're just humans.
Yeah, and I could even see like, okay, a good majority of them are, others are not, or I could see both. But part of me is like, could everyone be in it? Could be. What if like the illusion of what the TVA actually looks like is revealed? That could be something else.
Right.
So yeah, so they eventually make it back to, they come to the revelation like they got to go to the Ark or the rescue ship to basically repower up the device. And basically the moon is breaking up and getting ready to crash towards the planet. Like you said, that that running sequence, if it wasn't one shot, it definitely was edited quite well for it.
Yeah, it reminded me of a couple movies. One, it reminded me of 1917, where it's not a true one shot, but it's edited in that style. And it was just real frantic. And there's a sequence in 1917 with bombs going off everywhere as they're running around and they're trying to run through this little town, if you will. And I had that memory. And then at the end of it, they get to the Ark, and the Ark, like the meteor or whatever blows through the Ark and blows it in half, and they're defeated, and Sylvie walks away. And I actually thought of the movie Rogue One at that point, because it's like I feel like we just followed our leads. We got to know our leads. We love our leads. They're wonderful. And now they're gonna die.
They're gonna die.
And they just accept it. And obviously, we know they're not going to die. Like that's sure that would be the worst ending ever. Marvel. They're done. They didn't make it off. They didn't get off the
next 3 episodes are a thing you never saw coming.
Yeah, it turns out we're starting What If early, but in the moment, that's what it made me think of. And in the moment, I still felt for them, and like the despair and on Loki's face, and just the defeated look of like, well, crap on Sylvie's face as she just kind of like shrugs and walks away because she's like, well, can't go there now.
Yep. Thanks. All the years in the making plan. Thanks, Loki. Appreciate it. I know a lot of people have been calling out when Loki stops basically the building from falling on top of them and pushes it back. Seeing a lot of people saying, could it be the time stone? Did he pocket the time stone at that point? A couple of things. I'd seen the first episode probably like 4 times now. And I'm pretty sure I heard an audible drop of the stone. Now, it could have been him moving the stones around, but I definitely heard an audible drop of a stone or moving stones around. Does it mean he still pockets it? Could be. I don't think it's the time stone, and here's why. Though we have not seen him use telekinesis before, he has done it. He's done it twice. He's done it in Thor when he was using it to propel his daggers on Jotunheim. And then he did it very easily seen when he is given word that Frigga has been killed, and he blows apart his entire cell. So he does have telekinesis. We just not have seen him use it before.
And maybe not on that scale. Like he seemed to do that really easily. To me, I know a lot of people are focusing on, well, there's green blasts and stuff throughout, but it's like green is a color of Loki, like it's his color. And so, of course, there's a time stone. I feel like if he was using the time stone, we probably would have seen like the green glyphs around as he did it, like we saw with Doctor Strange when he used it, and like we saw with Thanos. Yes. Now, you could argue that his magics are different, that he was using it in a different way than the two of them. I don't know. I'm not willing to say it's impossible there wasn't a stone, but I tend to just go with you. We're just seeing a different display of his telekinesis that we already knew he had.
Fanboy Clay is in the chat, or couldn't the story continue on with more variants? Oh, of course, it totally could at that point. Sabon Sanchez, he also used it against Sylvie at Rockscar. Yep. Forgot about that part too. It's very subtle at this point, but he has confidence in using it. It's like with any kind of power that you have at that point. Your adrenaline's pumping at that point. You're gonna do what you can at that point. He seemed very confident that he could use it at that point. Brock Bestow saying, part of me thinks it's an illusion.
Okay, Brock, answer this. Are you saying you think the whole thing's an illusion? Because I have seen speculation that the Tim pad itself never got destroyed because where was he? It's not like he was just like he's like, oh well, I took a hard fall, but it's not like he was putting it in his pocket. He was storing it in some sort of like magical side dimension thing, like, following
in his gut.
Right? And so I'm like, I don't know. I would definitely not put it on past the illusion. All right, Brock says from her napping, he thinks it's an illusion, and you know what? I think there's something to that. I could see that being very possible. I mean, is it unlikely? Is it unbelievable that Loki, who calls himself a hedonist, is going to blow their cover by getting drunk and singing a song? No, you know what? He would do it. But at the same time, like, that feels like him falling into traps and mistakes that Thor had just made in the Thor movie. And granted, Loki kind of pushed him towards those behaviors, but I don't know. So to me, the illusion thing feels more likely than the time stone theory. I'm still not willing to say definitively that I think it's an illusion, but it's on the table for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he is the mischief. You know, he's the god of mischief. So yeah, I'm with you. They're going to be saved somehow, whether it's revolution to be an illusion. Mobius comes in at that point. You're right. I think next week is going to be the episode where we see the chaos ensuing. How many different alternative times are we going to see? What did you put it? How many ones are you going to see? Over, under what?
5.
Okay.
I'll set the line at 5. So do you take the over or the under?
I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
I'm going to take the under of 5 at that point. I'll do under 5. Are you going to do over or under?
I would take the over, but that's why I set the line, so I don't have to make that choice.
I'll do the under at that point. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong at that point. I'm just going with how much they still have to deal with in 3 episodes and in a single episode alone.
All right. And I know you're not here next week. You're on your trip. Happy anniversary, 10 years, remarkable achievement. Are you gonna watch? Watch? Okay.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean,
because man, you better just be nowhere near the internet.
Erin has said I cannot bring any podcasting equipment, yet she forgets I have a phone and an iPad at that point and headphones. So if I really wanted to, I could, but I'm not bringing a mic at that point.
No, don't do it. It's not worth that fight.
No, it's not. No, totally not worth that fight. No, absolutely not. But I've got my iPad. We got Wi-Fi all over the place at the resort. So no, she knows, and she still has yet to see an episode. So it may be a binging. Well, she's been gone.
What?
She's been gone in New York for a week and a half. She just got back. We're getting ready for this trip, so she hasn't had time. So that will be rectified maybe on this trip. So
I that would be good for like the plane ride there. You know, like get a headphone splitter, throw it on your iPad, and go to work.
Yeah. So, but one thing before we kind of get into the questions about this as we head towards the end of the episode, it's some of the things we see some of the end credits changed. We see images of Loki and Sylvie now in the end credits. We see what is it? The battery pack on Mobius's desk is also a new addition at the end credits. The song is another one. It is from Dark Moon by Bonnie Guitar. Lyrics very similar. Mortals have dreams of love's perfect schemes, but they don't realize that love will sometimes bring a dark moon way up in the sky. These mortals look up in the sky and see their destruction. So very good choices in the sense of their lyrics. So yeah. So next week, episode 1 of 2 of Mr. Hiddleston's ones that he says is going to get freaking crazy. Oh, well, Snell's in the chat saying, evil Sith Kermit saying, do it. Kidding, of course. Yeah, you may live in Canada, but I also I also like living with my wife. So definitely not going to do that.
Yeah.
No. I'm there from Friday to Friday. I'm not ruining staying with that idea. So,
the following week, I'm going to say it is more important. So It's
It
fine.
is the penultimate episode, so my favorites of all. So let's get
Absolutely.
into some of these questions.
All right. This first one from the Brockman is Tom Hiddleston, the Nick's companion. I don't, like I said, I don't know Doctor Who, but I know companion's a Doctor Who thing. I'll let you answer it though.
I've seen a little bit. I think it's on my summer to-do list to start delving into Doctor Who, but have we? I was saying BD in Phase Zero. I could have sworn he said almost acting like that Loki season 2 is basically confirmed. I know we've heard rumors, but I haven't heard an official confirmation that. I think Feige's hinted at it in the sense of it's if we do a season 2, it's not going to be. It's kind of like an anthology. It's not going to be a season 2 picking up where we left off in season 1.
You know, they obviously haven't announced anything. There's nothing official, but BD over there.
Okay, sorry, Hines. I'm sorry.
I mean,
yes.
he's got sources. You know, he does have his sources. I'm inclined to believe him. I will just say this. Well, nothing's official. They haven't announced it. I believe the plan is to do a second season right now.
Oh yeah, I think this is WandaVision definitely is not coming back in that sense. I think that's a limited series. I think in the categories they've entered it into for consideration for awards.
And every time Elizabeth Olsen's been asked, including recently by Kaylee Cuoco on Variety's Actors on Actors, she says no, limited series. WandaVision is a limited series. Do I think we might get a Scarlet Witch series? I think so. I think it's very possible. And recently it was implied that we're going to probably see her again beyond Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. If that's so, I hope it is on another show.
Mm-hmm. Next question from Dalen at Dalen Smith. Is Captain America a variant, given the fact that he lived out his days after returning the stones in a different timeline with Peggy Carter? What do you think?
I think he was a variant in that timeline. You know, he jumps back to what was supposed to be his present, and I would say probably not. But at least for the time he was there, I think we'd have to call him one. I don't know how we couldn't. But I mean, you could make an argument that him getting frozen in ice and coming to the future was making him a variant to begin with, because they didn't say it was some like you had to go through a mystical portal to another time. They said you could be late for work, and that change makes you a variant. And so, yes, as of right now, I think we could classify at least part of his existence as a variant at some point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's knowing what we know now and what we've dealt with. Yeah, he in some ways is a variant. Brock says he'll take an Agatha show or a Vision show. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think both those characters are coming back. I don't know if in their own show though, but Vision I would love if it's based even more on Tom King stuff.
Yeah, I could see a Scarlet Witch show with Agatha in it. I definitely think we have not seen the last of those two together. I don't think Vision will be a part of it, though.
Sawbone Sanchez says, "Old man Steve is a TVA janitor. Janitor confirmed?" ?
Can't confirm it, but we can't rule it out technically either, I guess.
Nope. I mean, Peggy Carter might have been being escorted by by the TVA in that opening sequence. So
maybe that's the Peggy Carter that's going to be Captain Britain in What If. I'm not off this What If is part of these different time branches yet.
No,
I won't be until Feige tells me I have to be.
Exactly. Dookie at Dookie. Drunk Loki versus Drunk Vision. Who wins?
Loki. I'm going to give the edge to magic over science in this case.
Magic over science, that case.
Vision, yeah, because Vision doesn't have a Mind Stone to attempt to counteract him. So yeah, I'm going Drunk Loki.
Yeah, you're right. I think he'd toy with Vision a little bit, let him get in a few extra things, but when it comes down to it, yeah.
I mean, one piece of gum and Vision's out. You know, so.
That's true. That is true. And our last one from John Hazelton at HZI. Excuse me, yeah, HZI and God, my eyes tonight. HZINTZ. Oof, got to get that out. Says, since we know that the TVA agents are really variants and they weren't created like Mobius believes, it would make sense that the city is also not what it seems. So where/what do you think the city is now? I'm also starting to think the timekeeper is Loki or Lokis. What are our thoughts?
The second half of that, I mean, I'm definitely think that's possible. That fits into my old man or King Loki theories. The first part of this, I pretty much know what your answer is going to be, and I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this city may not be what it seems. It could be. It definitely, because I mean, a lot of people pointed to the trailers that we saw that of the seeing the city wasn't the thing that we ended up seeing in what we got. So people saying, "Oh, were they doing misdirect?" I just think that they weren't ready for the visuals to see at that point. So I don't know. Um, Look, Timekeeper being a Loki could be. I'm still not also saying that Kang may be the only timekeeper. I still think we have timekeeper or timekeepers. I just don't know if it was King. I'm of the train that Kang was maybe a former timekeeper that has gone left.
I could see that, and it's just with the city in the quantum realm that we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and quantum media coming up, and we know Jonathan Majors was cast as King. I do believe that we are going to. I think we'll see King. I think we're going to see him. Maybe it's just a credit scene, similar to Thanos in the first Avengers movie. I think we're going to see him.
Yeah. So yeah, we got 3 more episodes left. It's gonna be fun. Gonna be fun
Yes,
times.
yes, it
So
is.
but yeah, before let's look at okay, yeah, let's take our second ad break before we get into the news, namely leading with our Shang-Chi trailer. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so turn down that volume to save those eardrums. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. Okay. Well, I don't even know how this started. When did we get word about this? Was this yesterday about the Shang-Chi trailer? Or is it?
It was either yesterday or early this morning.
Yeah. So thankfully again came on, and we were saying if it somehow did not come on before but dropped during the episode, we would have definitely had breaking news. So close to breaking news for this last minute edition. Have you gotten a chance to watch it at all?
One time,
Yes, so same
exactly
here.
one
One
time.
time. One time for here. So let me share the screen. As always, those who are watching it at that point, volume is going to be turned off. We have to do it in this view to make sure that we don't get demonetized at that point. I do have closed caption turned on. The music, I'll just say this: the music choice they've kept with, I really like it. I think it really fits well with the trailer, and I hope we do see more of this throughout the actual movie.
Yeah, it maybe isn't what I expected, but I liked it, and that's not a bad thing.
hmm So, and we have a couple of kind of surprises in this, including some denials that I'll be like, yeah, I don't know how you can deny this character being in this film anymore.
I mean, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get
Yeah,
there.
we'll get there. We'll get there. So, all right. So let us start, and feel free to monitor the chat. Brent said I've got to control the starting and stopping at points. So we see 5 rings here.
Yeah, just one hand though. So
Yep. So we got the Mandarin speaking. We're gonna see a lot of this use of him using the 10 rings.
I like the way they're doing the 10 rings here, where it's not just the true rings on his
Yeah.
fingers, right? Like it's just visually, I think it's pretty cool looking.
hmm God, these visuals. I think this is the first time we've seen his mother.
Yep. And I like what they're saying. You are your mother, but you're also your father. They
Mhm.
make up who you are. So it's kind of you're taking the good and the bad. You have it both inside you.
Yeah, this is definitely very action-packed story trailer.
Yeah, and this action is great, and we're seeing quite a bit of like that sequence. We saw part of that sequence in the last trailer. Seeing
Mhm.
more of it here.
You have to fly over to the compound. We're seeing a lot of stuff going back and forth of the past. What is it? You're just a criminal. You're just a criminal who murders people. Be careful how you speak to me, boy. very much, calling back to a lot of the famous martial art movies. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon comes to mind.
That sequence on the bus there, we got a little bit of it in the last trailer, what appears to be a different part of it here. I have a feeling I'm going to really enjoy that sequence.
Yeah.
These water effects look awesome. Like
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I were talking when we were watching Ride of the Last Dragon. Like one way you can just know good effects is how the water looks.
and I love this razor fist.
Yes.
That's his sister. I'm going on record. That's his sister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Please, someone tell me how that is not Fing Fang Foom.
I mean, if it's not, it's a dragon. If it's not that one, it is a dragon.
Yeah, I mean they said Fing Fang Foom is not in the movie. Okay, then it's a dragon, but gosh darn it, he's the most famous he's one of the most famous dragons. I won't say the famous, one of the most famous dragons in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it's what unless it's I don't know. It's him. It's got to be.
Yep. Okay, so then we're going to get our other surprise in this one. Okay. We did not see this one coming.
No.
It even says abomination.
I mean, are you going to... Yeah, it's like, are you going to try and deny that's the abomination? Because it sure looks like...
It's their Twitter. It's the only one that has the closed captioning. It's from Marvel Entertainment. Their closed captioning. It's the abomination is making his first appearance back into the MCU before She-Hulk.
And I think that's awesome. I mean, I always like the abomination design. I like the character. I've always liked him. And that's...
He's got fins. He's got fins. He's grown.
That's him. And then look at who he appears to be fighting. I have a guess on that. I'm pretty sure I have a behind the scenes confirmation on that. Do you?
Go for it.
It's Wong.
Yes.
It's Wong. And it's like pretty sure Benedict Wong, like Ray, my Fans Without Borders Coast, sent me a text that he saw about this because he saw the trailer. Abomination surprised him as well. And he's like, this pretty much confirms it. Like Wong was there shooting with them. Like here's a set photo, not a set photo shooting, but like a behind the scenes photo of them. And it's, I mean, it certainly looks like we have Wong versus the Abomination, which even if it's not, it's definitely a magic user. Like you see the shield and stuff. It's a magic user from the same school of arts, let's say, as Doctor Strange.
Yeah, which is interesting because these fins right back is what I'm talking about. These were definitely not, in the Incredible Hulk. He did not have those. So he's definitely mutated some more. But yeah, like you said, like my question is, why would he be fighting? I mean, it just doesn't seem to be, what's the gain of this? But if my theory is that this movie is taking place between the snap, we weren't, Doctor Strange, we know, was snapped out. We weren't sure of Wong's status. So maybe this is how Wong is dealing with Strange not being there.
I don't think we ever, unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think we ever had it confirmed either way. So yeah, like your theory of this being within that time period is on the table. And I know we're getting a Black Widow with Black Widow. We're getting a prequel. Obviously, we've gotten stories that take place after that. I am very interested in this idea. So if this movie's not set during that time, I would love to see another movie that is.
Yeah. So, but wow. I definitely love let's catching up on some of the stuff in the chat at that point. All right. So Fanboy Clay, how much of the movie do you think is going to be in the fantastical setting? It looks like it may be more than I initially thought. I'd say this movie was this trailer definitely showed a lot more of the fantastical, as you put it, the fantastical, the training, the going back into the past, the use of the future. I think this is going to lean very hard into a lot of some very, in my opinion, some really cool tropes that they have been done in martial arts films.
It looks like a lot. This isn't just going to be, him in the city and stuff. Yeah, we're going to get that, but dragon, we're going fantastic also.
Yep. Mr. Hines, what if Iron Fist was good? That's a what if. We could do a whole episode on what if Iron Fist was
Man,
good.
whatever. I liked Iron Fist. Was it as good as the other shows? No, but I liked it, and I still say where season 2 ended, I wanted a third season.
Very good, Sabaton. Marvel Combat.
It's not fair to compare a trailer to a movie, but I've seen the movie. I'd rather watch this trailer a few more times and go back to Mortal Kombat.
Marvel Combat, very good, and biblically, of course, the new design, yes, as well. So yeah, more excitement. I'm pretty sure we're probably gonna get one more trailer out of this. Probably about August, we'll get our final trailer.
I can see that.
So, all right. And so again, nice surprise extra news we got this week. So unfortunately for me, I don't think it's unfortunate, but for Mr. Snell and some others, I do not think we're going to have our No Way Home trailer dropping next week, or pretty much looking at within my still guess is probably now August before we see that.
You know what? I hope you're right. Did you see what I said about that today on Twitter?
I've been busy packing, so I might have missed it.
I maybe I'm totally wrong, but let's just assume the No Way Home rumors are true and we're going multiverse, right? That might be influenced by the end of Loki. And if that's the case, I would rather not see that trailer until Loki is finished. Now, they could do what they did with Endgame and Far From Home, because the first Far From Home trailer was out before Endgame was. And or maybe right after. It was super close to that time, and it was really vague. Like, they really didn't. Yeah, if you've seen Endgame, you can watch it and know what they're saying. But as is, they didn't, like, the later trailers straight up tell you Iron Man's dead. He's gone. And the first one didn't do it. Things were much more vague. So I feel like even if we get a No Way Home trailer, if it's before Loki, I don't think it's going to be that revealing. It's definitely not the story trailer. We're definitely not getting that. Oh, yeah. And so my prediction would be, if we get a trailer before Loki, and maybe even regardless, that first trailer I think is going to focus almost entirely on him being outed by Mysterio. Maybe at the end of that trailer, we get some other glimpse. I think an octopus arm, some other glimpse of the other universes.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking. I think that I think the expectations, unfortunately, we will not see that trailer next week. So, especially after this drop, I wonder if this was planned, though. This drop. It sounds like it might have been. I mean, a little bit more planned. Maybe that's what people thought with. They were hearing Marvel trailer. They immediately jumped to Far From Home. Excuse me. No, I don't. It's so much easier.
No Way
Home. But this was the actual plan.
You know, this trailer, I get that. Like, it wasn't that long ago that we got our first Shang-Chi trailer. It wasn't that long ago. And I could see them thinking, well, that's the next big MCU movie that we haven't seen anything from yet. And at the same time, of course, Sony ultimately has the marketing decisions on that. But there was just a report a week or two ago of Marvel and Sony working together on the marketing for Spider-Man No Way Home. And I kind of assume that's happened in the past, but I don't remember reading reports about it happening in the past. And you got to think that with Loki being actively going, with Black Widow coming, and then Shang-Chi in September, it's like, Feige's like, can I get you guys to watch these first?
Yes,
can we
please.
watch these first? And I'm like, yes. You know me, I love Spider-Man. I'm ready to go. I'd see that movie 3 times tomorrow if I could. It's not out yet. I'm okay with that. I got other Marvel stuff. I wish people would calm down.
Just enjoy the content. # Marvel content. Enjoy it all.
Delayed gratification, you know. Just let's focus on what we have now, and then we'll focus on that stuff later.
But we know some people, namely Mr. Snell, wants it now, like that the Wonka kid at that point. So, all right, let us get into some news. We got a few news items, some interesting stuff. We get something from the Illuminati, everyone's favorite blog site at that point. They dropped some hints like they always do. Who wants to hear us? We got some updates on Spider-Woman. We didn't know which way they were going. Were we going Olivia Wilde's film, or were we going with a little bit more information on Spider-Woman's role in Into the Spider-Verse 2? Well, They brought it. They're going to go with the former. With it's going to be about Olivia Wilde. So they bring up the idea that Deadline broke the story that Olivia Wilde was going to be developing and directing the Marvel film focused on the character. The Illuminati has been able to confirm that from their sources that Olivia Wilde's project is not only going to be a Spider-Woman film as expected, but it will follow the original Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. That's a big confirmation. I mean, it's a big thing for them to say because Spider-Woman has taken many different roles, and we were wondering where does this fit. So again, this is their sources. They say that their sources will be saying the character will stay true to the original Spider-Woman's origin, even tying in her memory loss. Although in the comics, this is tied to Hydra, which will presumably not be the case in the film. What is interesting is that it looks like they are going to cast a 25 to 35-year-old actress. This could mean that Jessica awakens as an adult instead of a teenager, or it could be set years after she wakes from the genetic accelerator. What's your familiarity with the character of Jessica Drew?
I haven't read a ton with her. I've read a handful of stuff. And of course, she's appeared in several Spider-Man books and Spider-Man events the last few years because they've done all their Spider-Verse stuff. I remember the old cartoon from, is it like the 70s? Maybe the early 80s. There was an old cartoon of her and like renting that from Blockbuster to date myself on VHS. And I saw that a few times. I know ultimately the basics. I know she's gone through she's an agent, she's a double agent, she's a triple agent, all that stuff. Of course, they're not going to get everything from Hydra here. You're absolutely, we assume, you never know, because SPUMC now, that could be MCU later. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is the Spider-Woman they're going with first. There's other female Spider characters that I would enjoy seeing. There's Julia Carpenter, there's Aranya, there's, of course, Spider-Gwen. There are others. She's the first, she's the first one, not Madam Web. Just to be clear, Madam Web does not need her own movie. But
we will get to that point maybe one day. But yeah, some of the unique origins, unlike a typical radioactive spider bite, at a young age, Jessica was exposed to uranium for months and became extremely ill. Her father, a scientist, injected her with untested serum that he created with irradiated blood from many different species of spiders. Jessica was then sealed into genetic accelerator due to the serum needing to incubate, where her age was decelerated. Jessica woke up in the accelerator decades later. In the comic, she was only 17 years old. When she woke, she had many new powers, including wall crawling, superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, and numerous others, which includes her famed Venom Blast, controlled discharges of bioelectricity, very similar to our wall crawler himself, Miles Morales.
Yep.
So again, a very big power set. She's, as you said, she's worked for Hydra. She's been brainwashed by Hydra, worked as a bounty hunter, private investigator, becoming a new Avenger, and many others. She has worn many hats.
Yeah, she's definitely, and gotten around, and like her powers are very different than Peter's. Like she's a spider, but she's not the same kind of spider as Gwen, as Miles, as Peter is. And I like it. It's fun to see her team up with the other spiders. I know she has a good friendship that they've really developed over the last few years with Captain Marvel, and so be cool if we could see that someday. I don't know if we will, but it'd be pretty neat to see.
And I'm not sure about this. I know Silk has the pheromones, the power set. Did Jessica ever have that kind of thing? Something, I don't know why I think that she had some sort of power, and I could be completely wrong.
I don't remember it, but there's plenty of Jessica Drew Spider-Woman I haven't read. And so I can't really, Silk definitely, coming from the same spider that bit Peter, especially with Peter, the two of them. Yeah, I mean, they couldn't stop, they couldn't stop. Let's call it what it is. They couldn't stop what they were doing. Yeah.
Sure, they weren't rabbits. That's all. We were sure they weren't rabbits.
Peter, according to some, he may not be a hero. But regardless,
he does have that tingle though.
He does have it. Regardless, Jessica Drew, like I said, she's the first Spider-Woman we're going to see in live action, as far as we know. I think that's appropriate. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm excited to see what they do with her. No, I don't necessarily have the same expectations I would from the MCU, but I gotta have hope. I gotta try and have some
Yeah.
hope, you know.
And even still, not many people kind of picked up on this, and again, Illuminati's had some swings and some misses at this point for last 6-7 months at that point, but with everything, particularly as you said, with the SPUMC, with Sony doing this, I really need to see production starting in the sense of photos for this for me to actually believe this is going to happen.
Absolutely,
Very much.
yes.
They don't get the pass that Marvel does.
No,
I'm sorry.
no.
But I am confident that Jackpot movie is happening. Jackpot will be happening.
I mean, now that we know the Flash is officially happening, it's possible. Anything's possible.
Yep, anything is. So you want to take this next door with Emilia Clarke?
You know, this is where I admit I have never seen an episode of Game of Thrones.
That's okay.
So I'm like, I don't like. So many people are like totally like excited about her involvement in the stuff, and it's cool. It's great. I know she's super popular. I only know her from Solo: A Star Wars Story. So it's like the only thing I've seen her in. But you know, recently she's got her first issue of this comic, Mother of Madness, and it's coming to for Image. What I've read, like she describes it as Deadpool meets Fleabag. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to jump out to read this right away, but maybe I'll check it out. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I think from what I remember, Nathan had messaged me a couple weeks ago about like my opinion about it. Just knowing that I think getting powers from her menstrual cycle, I believe, is kind of the big thing. I said, well, she's taken a page out of Chip Zdarsky from Sex Criminals, where a couple who orgasms can stop time. So,
yeah, I think I've read like one issue of that. That's different, but it's something.
It's just, again, not trying to be disgusting. It's just that's what it's about. So
she was asked about, from the Hollywood Reporter about like, are you excited to have another potential long-term character? And she just said, well, I mean, I should be so lucky is what I'll say to that. Everyone I know and everyone I've spoken to is part of the Marvel universe, and actors talk. Everyone has only the highest praise to offer. There's a reason why the actors stay in it. They're so loved because they're having loads of fun. So I'm down for that. And if you think about it, Clarke, she was a big part of Game of Thrones. She was in a Star Wars movie. Now she's jumping into Marvel. I mean, that is hitting some major franchises.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? She's right on all accounts, and it's one of those things of, oh, maybe she wants to strike up, but it sounds like she has a lot of fun. She understands, coming from a major series as Game of Thrones, the commitment and things like that. That doesn't seem to scare her. She said, I'm going to be employed and I'm going to enjoy doing this. My fan cast for her, Abigail Brand. I could totally see her as Abigail Brand.
She's got to be coming, right? I mean,
Sword exists.
Sword, as I'm wearing a shirt for Sword right now, Abigail Brand has got to be coming. So yeah, I don't have anyone else in mind right now for her. That's pretty much what I'm thinking too.
So it'll be good. I mean, again, they've taken a lot from Game of Thrones. Kit Harington in Eternals is going to make his appearance. What's his face? Also in Eternals.
I know there
Icarus.
is someone. Yes, yeah, Icarus.
Yeah, Icarus.
Like there is someone else, but I can't remember who. Because again, that's a huge.
Someone in the chat. Someone in the chat's is gonna help me out on that one. I can't think of the actor's name. So again, I just like people say, oh, Kit Harington's playing the Black Knight. Well, he played Jon Snow doing the Gates. So it's gonna be interesting. But again, she knows the commitment. She's a great actress. There have been some things I'm not a fan of necessarily, and it's not necessarily due to her. It's due to the writing and the portrayal. The Terminator film, I didn't think was the best for her character, but I mean for her as an actress. But not everyone can do bat 1,000.
No, but that's all right. And it's not necessarily on her.
No, it's not. So. All right, so our last news story tonight is Mr. Feige. We all, as Mr. Snell would say, our Lord and Savior, Kevin Feige.
No, can we just stop that nonsense?
He won't stop it. He won't. I'm just saying it's at some point or another. He's going to say it once next week.
He probably will now that you've said that, and he'll bring in the food to go with it, and just absolutely ridiculous. No.
his recording with me for World's Finest that'll drop in about a month or so. He recognized he did not do a food reference on that one.
Oh
So,
man, well now he's gonna make up for it.
oh, you darn right, that and clones. Um,
I like clones. Clones are fun.
yes, clones are good. So this is coming from the direct during a virtual press conference, Marvel Studios Black Widow on June 18th. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige was asked in referencing Black Widow, this look to the past could apply to other MCU characters, or is this a particular case because of Natasha's particular character? Feige seemingly showed excitement for where the studio could take MCU characters in the future, stating, well, certainly this film and this story in particular case for Natasha, but the notion of exploring the past, present, and future of the MCU is certainly in the cards for all of our characters. This particular story, this particular cast is very personal, very specific to Natasha. He didn't necessarily balk at the idea.
He did what he does. He didn't answer the question by answering the question. That's what he does. He think about it. He literally said, maybe I'm not going to do it, And if they want to do more prequels, that's fine. I'm not of the belief that just because where the character's currently at, that makes a story invalid in the past. Like I know some people believe. And I'm excited for Black Widow. I feel like Scarlett Johansson has deserved a movie for a long time. I'm glad we're finally going to get to see it, and if they want to give us more, like your Shang-Chi theory, is this set in past, present, future? Is this set there? Maybe, I don't know. The future, I mean, we just watched a Loki episode where they went to 2077. We've seen the future already, The main timeline's in 2024. And so, I mean, is it bad that I just don't care? I'm like, just give me the movies. Give me the shows. I don't care when they take place.
We want to experience it. You got Florence Pugh, is in Black Widow, has been noted for many of the reviews as a quote unquote instant MCU icon. That says a lot. This is on top of the fact that she is already reported to be appearing in Hawkeye later this year, meaning the newcomer status might be short lived. Again, not without getting into too much of a rabbit hole at that point. I have seen more, and people can say, oh, it's the Marvel thing. People buy out Marvel, stuff like that. Can they buy out everyone? Because I have not seen many like saying, oh, this movie's garbage. This is a prequel at that point. I have seen very much, I'm surprised how good it is.
I've seen one. To be fair, okay. I've got hashtags muted. I'm not seeking it out. But I let some of the Twitter reactions come in the first day, and I saw one that was pretty negative about it. And everything else has been, I enjoyed it. It's not the best, or wow, it was really good. This is up there. And we'll find out. We'll find out in a couple weeks for ourselves. But I guess I want to say this about prequels. I think if they go too far in the past into the Infinity Saga, they just have to tell the story of where that character was at the end. They could introduce, they could bring Daredevil full on, give him a movie, right? And set a story in the past in the Infinity Saga. If he's, street level enough, he wasn't involved in the final battles. He didn't go to Titan. He wasn't at Wakanda. So it's not like maybe they didn't know him to bring him there to Avengers Compound in the end. They just got to give us the reason. I feel like if they're going to the past into the Infinity Saga, we kind of need some sort of reason for why they weren't there. Doesn't have to be much. One single line would do it. They just got to be a little leery on that. But other than that, give us more prequels, please.
Yeah, and especially if it's this time period. I mean, again, there's going to be a time, and I think that time is quickly coming, where we're going to move on from the snap. But the fact that, again, my theory is Shang-Chi is set in after the snap has occurred, but before Endgame begins. I say we've got maybe one or two projects still doing that, and then we're finally going to be moving on, at that point from Endgame and Infinity War.
Yeah, and it'll be fun because you get to the chronological rewatch. I was talking with you and Snell the other day. It's like, where are we going to put Loki for this? You get to the chronological rewatch, and you get to slot those in, and it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, again, and and one of my other summer plans is to do a rewatch in chronological order, including the one shots. I enjoyed it the first time I did it. I got some time. I'll figure it out. All right, so that's the news. Oh, okay, hold on. we got Fanboy Clay saying, "Where is Snell's F prequels comment?"
I'm sure it's coming next week, or
Yeah.
maybe it's coming later this episode when he puts it together. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't tease him like that. You know what happens when you bait him, Clay. You know exactly what happens. He makes comments and he suspends people that he thinks are coming after him. So, so just be careful with that. But I know you're not afraid of him. So. All right, so let us take our final ad break for the night. So, listeners, again, these ads help keep the lights on at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be just a bit loud. So, we're going to give you that 3 count so you can turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so I was in the middle of getting those factor fictions ready, but we do have some few more off Loki questions, some listener questions. You want to hit those up while I pull up the factor fictions?
Yeah, this first one from Zach at Zach19831. When do you think we'll see Deadpool in the MCU? I would say I'm going to say ignoring credit scenes for now, because those are possible anytime. Ignoring credit scenes, but like actual something of substance with the character. 2025 feels like the earliest, I think. Because I feel like so much stuff is in motion. 2025 would be maybe late 2024. Regardless, phase 5. I think phase 5 is when it's coming, regardless of the actual year.
Yeah, I think I've said before, phase 5 is going to revolve in some part around the X-Men. And so Deadpool is a mutant. Feige has come out and said Deadpool 3 will be in the MCU. I can already hear Travis in my back of my head said, I'll believe it when I see it at that point. True. But at that point, we just got off of Feige playing very, very political with answering a question. He wasn't asked that, he came out and said it at that point. So I'm going to give him just a little bit benefit of the doubt at that point that he's to put that out there doesn't mean he can't change. And yes, doesn't mean that that is a long time away for 2025 from it getting in production. And yes, things can fall apart, but I'm going to be a little more of an optimistic, pulling from my DC brethren at that point. Faith, Alfred. Faith.
2025, that's a little far. That's probably a little far away with how much of a lead time they have on stuff. So I'm going to move it up to late 2023 or 2024. But either way, honestly, with Deadpool, I really don't care if it's in the MCU. I adore the Deadpool movies, both of them. I just love those things.
Yeah.
I just want to have another one. Like, I know all the other reasons why people did not want Disney to buy Fox. But for me, I wanted them to get the Marvel characters back, with the one casualty that I'll truly miss would be if we don't get any more Deadpool. That would be my one demerit on the whole thing. Looks like we are getting more Deadpool. So part of the MCU, not part of the MCU, brought in by Loki because he's a time variant. I don't care. I just want to see more of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
Yeah. So got one more question. It's a doozy. It's a real doozy.
This is Tim Rooney as Squirrel Girl, the most powerful character in all of Marvel. I mean, she's supposed to never lose, right?
That's the secret of the Marvel Universe, Tim. You figured it out. Yes, Squirrel Girl is the most powerful.
I have never actually read the Squirrel Girl books. I've read books that she's been in. Most of those, she was a nanny for Jessica Jones and Luke Cage for their daughter. Yes, I did read All New Wolverine as well. All New Wolverine, that's such a good book. But I like her solo stuff. I've never read her, like where she takes out Thanos. I know of it. I haven't read it, but it's what a ludicrous character.
It is. It's one of those things. I'm sorry, Tim. I can't believe it. I can't say it just because I can't. I can't. I can't. I can't. It's a fun theory at that point, considering what like Brandon gone over some of the things that she supposedly has been able to do. But yeah, no, I don't think she can stand toe to toe with with the Celestial. I think the Celestial would have her number.
I don't know. I don't know.
We'll see. I'd be happy to be proven wrong. So, well, thank you all, and again, thank you for these questions, and thank you for all those who did questions for us for Loki. Those are always fun. Keep them coming. All right. Ugh, sorry, I was going to stop a sneeze there. All right, Fact or Fictions. These were yours last week, if I'm not mistaken. Present day Hulk, aka Professor Hulk, will go savage again within the next 2 projects he appears in. 69% said fact, 31% said fiction. I know I definitely was fact at that.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Fact or fiction number 2. Previous Sony Spider-Man movies will come to Disney Plus in time for No Way Home's theatrical release. 66% said fact, 34% said fiction. We've definitely seen some of those possible leaked ads that had some of those movies linked into the Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much fact on all my stuff, so.
Oh God, what's going on in the chat? I'm just paying attention now.
Don't worry about it.
Fact or fiction number 3. Loki will have an appearance by another MCU actor other than episode 1 flashbacks. 93% says fact, 7% said fiction. So are we going to see Paul Bettany, as I said last week, Paul Bettany playing Paul Bettany?
I don't know. Now I'm thinking it could be the Abomination. He's just popping up anywhere.
Yeah, shoot. Still reeling from that one at that point. All right, so this is my week. Mr. Snell is going to be next week, so you get a extra week to think of some ones on your own.
Oh, good to know. I did not know that.
Yes, excellent. When the guest comes on, that is the rule. The guest comes on, the guest has fact or fictions.
Does he count as a guest? I don't know.
Yes, he does. He's already preparing for it. So
fair enough.
All right, so these were some of mine. I'll start off with a little bit of a lowball one. We will see Wolverine don the brown and tan costume instead of the yellow and blue in his first appearance in the MCU.
If you just said we'd see him in costume, you could have just said that, but no.
Oh come on.
You had to say he's going to be in this costume that's pretty good and not in his greatest costume. I'm going to say fiction only because my heart still wants that yellow costume.
I'm gonna say fiction as well. Just because I come up with a question, that's the rule. Just because I come up with a question doesn't mean I have to buy into it. Because when it comes down to iconic, you're right. The blue and the yellow and blue, the gold and blue, however you want to do it, is the most recognizable. The only reason it'll edge towards that is because in the comics as it is going on right now, yes, Laura, all new Wolverine, is in that costume. Logan is in the brown and tan and has been in for the last few years. So that is that is the only thing if they want to lean into that at that point. But yes,
I just
totally agree.
I just want one. I'll take brown. I want yellow. Even like his gray X-Force one, that's fine. I'll go with that. I haven't seen him wear that in a while. Go with that one. That's great. I just give me a costume.
Yes, I wasn't going to do the costume because that's that's like everyone wins. Everyone has a good time at the horse race. Of course, it's going to happen. Fanboy agrees. Fiction, blue and yellow first, but we will at least visually see brown and tan. I think even the awesome, like that scene when we open up the case, I think it was brown and tan. I don't think it was yellow and blue.
I would have to go back and look.
Yeah, I think someone, if they're still paying attention to the chat, might get me on that one. All right, next one. I've had this one sitting for a couple of weeks now. I've been going back and forth whether to put it out there, but now is the time. We will see Ultron return as some sort of threat by Phase 6.
Fact. Definitely fact. It's all he had to do was shoot his consciousness into some random toaster nearby and he's good to go. So I would be very surprised if one of the biggest villains to the Avengers did not make a return.
Yeah, and I definitely look forward to Mr. Spader returning. So
In
as the
fact,
voice,
to date, for the villains like the Avengers have fought, obviously we've seen Loki again, we've seen Thanos multiple times. Ultron. I mean, he's the one that hasn't made an appearance in another movie.
yep, he's the easiest one you could headcanon. Like you said, he found a way to get his conscience and just been biding his time to figure out how he lost. So,
absolutely.
All right, last one for me. We will see at least one Disney Plus solo series character jump to the big screen in their own movie by Phase 6. And I was very careful how I word this because, yes, we know Miss Marvel is jumping to the Marvels, but that is not her own solo.
Captain America 4?
Okay. You got me on that one. I was.
So
I'll look. Yeah. So I will qualify it. I would say at least one new solo series character will jump to the big screen in their own movie
by the end of Phase 6.
By the end of Phase 6.
I'll still say fact. Say fact. I think it'll happen. We're gonna.
I think that when I put it into the notes.
I feel like there will be a breakout character that they decide to give the movie treatment to. I believe it'll happen.
Yeah, and again, that's not detracting from Kamala Khan going into the Marvels. That's awesome at that point. I'm fact on that one too. I think
for all we know, it could be Kamala Khan.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So, that'll work for me. I'll be happy with that. So, all right. So, Mr. Snell will be making sure these get posted this weekend. So make sure Mr. Clarke to remind him of that. Yep.
I will set a reminder for Sunday morning.
All right. So last thing of the evening, we've got some Loki. It's Loki all around.
Loki all around. This first issue up, we've got Loki, more Loki and Doom. I really like the two of them together. I feel like for the first time I'm overall less positive about this group, but it's not this issue. It's the next two issues, like just the Axis stuff. I didn't think it was handled as well as it was handled in this issue and the previous one, but I really liked Loki facing off with Doom. That is something I'd like to see in live action. Like I really enjoyed those two together.
It's almost a fight that you never thought you wanted, but then when you saw it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm down for this. It's an interesting battle of wills, battle of wits at that point. As you have this other thing going on with Axis and the Red Skull. It's an interesting. I keep on saying it's a very interesting event. It's a fun event. It's definitely not one of my favorites, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. For me, like the big takeaway from it was like the Havoc character. Like he never got inverted back to being good. I honestly don't even know what his status is right now. I really like him. He was one of my favorite X characters, but I kind of just I've had a hard time keeping up with the X-Men, and that is one. But regardless, for me, like in this issue, like there's a really cool visual of like the giant Red Skull and Doom inside it as he's figuring it out, and it's like Doom was smart enough to figure out that his mind was being messed with. He's like, no, this emotion doesn't feel right. This isn't me. There's something going on here. Oh, of course. And he figures it out from there. And the whole time we've also got Valerie and Verity talking with each other, and reminded that Valerie's like 3 years old. It's like, I always forget like she's supposed to be really young. I always think they draw her a little too old looking.
Yeah, she definitely does not look 3 years old.
No.
But it's interesting how they basically have a battle of wits of saying, well, if I do this, no, I'm just telling you now, you can't convince me out of it. And then she she goes into other ideas saying, you know what? Okay, we're going to release him. You win this battle. You're right. And so, yeah, I mean, they eventually break him out. He finds a way to make sure everyone gets back to normal with their thoughts. We get the appearance Magneto that you're really not going to see payoff in this issue because it's connected to Axis. So you're going to have to read Axis to see the payoff on that one. So unfortunately, that's kind of where that ends. But The next two issues are directly involved in the inversion where good is bad, bad is good. And so we get this interesting super team. um, it's the strangest collection of heroes. One of the strangest collections of heroes I've seen in a while.
Yeah, we just get a glimpse of it, and this
Or
whole
bad guys in this sense because they're bad guys.
I mean, yeah, kind of. It's like, well, mostly bad guys anyway. You know, there's a couple in there who, like, we see, like, is this the issue where we see Sabretooth and stuff? And
It towards the end, yeah.
I don't know. It is, like I said, these two issues, like, I read them, they were fine. I can't, like, point to this one thing of, like, this was bad. I just, one, it felt like a lot of Axis in a row. And I don't mind one or two tie-in issues, but now we just had a couple with Doctor Doom, and I thought those were really well done. I'm like, kind of wish they just let the book go off back on its own at that point. You know, we did the tie-in went well. Just something about these two issues, and I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah,
Didn't work for me as well.
And I think this is where, the problem with event series and kind of making other series like, okay, you have to tie into this. I've not met many creators that like that, especially if their book has never been directly connected to said event that is being built towards. Because before this, Loki's had nothing to do with the build up towards this.
Yeah, and you know me, I love a crossover. I'm all about the crossover stuff, but it's like you got to plan for it. You got to build up to it, and it feels like these are the kind of tie-ins. These are the kind of events that it's like, okay, you got 2 months to write this, to get this story out, because that's going to be your issue 7 or your issue 8 or whatever the case is. Sorry to mess up your plans. And they try to do a little bit of something, like there's a shot of like of King Loki in there, laughing and things. And they try to include some of that main story stuff, but it didn't, for me anyway, it didn't work as well. I will say this though. I did enjoy Thor versus Loki. Their fight with Loki getting the upper hand, I did enjoy that.
Yeah, that was good. The ridiculousness of as how he gets over there and with turning into that unicorn and seeing the unworthy Thor, and
yeah,
it is interesting at that point. I think that was the quote unquote highlight of it, him fighting his brother, and get it leading in other Axis issues that the heroes are villains are heroes. I thought it was cool just him getting to prove in this, at least in this flipped inversion, that he is worthy. After Odin is basically saying it, you, out of everything, you still don't get it. You're still holding on to certain things that are going to continue to hold you back.
That was definitely the highlight of these two issues for me. But it was even more specifically like the event that undoes the inversions happens. Like you see one panel of like Scarlet Witch and Doom flipping them all back, right? Flipping everybody back. Like I'm trying to remember. Axis was when Red Skull invaded and took over Professor X's mind, right? And so
literally had his brain in his mind.
Yes, that's what it was. And so like you kind of see that undone in this, and at that moment, Loki is back to being mainly a villain, trying sort of to atone for his sins. Loki, we've been reading about in the prior issues, he's no longer worthy. And like there's a line at the very end where he's like, where Thor says there are some stories that none will ever believe, because Thor knows nobody will ever believe that Loki was at any time worthy to pick up that hammer.
Yep.
Especially at a time when Thor himself was not able to pick it up. And I did like that, but it's like, that's like just the last couple of pages of these issues. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to get back to our main story, because I definitely have been enjoying that a lot more.
Yeah, it was a kind of fun thing, but like we said, it just seemed like this could have been 2 issues and we could have been fine at that point.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so again, with me not being on next week, we're going to take a week hiatus from Loki. So the next time we do it was when it'll just be a very Loki focused episode in 2 Wednesdays from now. Loki the episode, Loki the comic, and
that's it for that one.
And that's gonna be it. That's gonna be my first chance to go to the movies. So I will be waiting to see Fast Fast and Furious 9 for a couple of weeks. Since,
I got that one tomorrow night. I got Fast
enjoy.
9 tomorrow night. Please, no spoilers. I'm excited for it. But yeah, it's 2 weeks from today. I will be at the movies with Brock, and we will be finally watching a Marvel movie.
Yes.
After 2 long years.
Ah, that fanfare. Can't wait to see it again on the big screen.
Yes. Yes.
I actually, again, call me a Marvel shill, but I'm also a DC shill at that point. But I did rewatch the Marvel Back to the Movies thing, and I got the same goosebumps again when that fanfare came about.
I think that is an excellent idea, and I just might have to do that as well.
It's just so good. It just got me excited for what the future is. And again, I love DC as much, but something about that fanfare, it's just so good. But anyways, so again, everyone, I will bid you all adieu for this next week. Mr. Snell and Brent will take care of you all for 1 week. I will be a lovely listener at that point. Probably not live, even though we're on the same time zone in that sense. I will probably be much busier things.
Do your vacation. Do your vacation.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. I will download the podcast when it drops. So
that's right.
But all right. Well, again, an episode, volume 54 in the books at that point. And so yeah, tell them how they can follow you, Brent.
Sure. Brentak Prime on Twitter, co-host of Fans Without Borders. That's the other show I am a part of. This will be an off week for that show, but we'll be back next week. And we haven't decided yet, but I have a feeling the Shang-Chi trailer will come up again, which is good because I'll get the chance to watch it, a couple more times.
Give it a true breakdown.
Yeah, I've only even seen it like on my iPad. I haven't when we're done tonight, I'm gonna go watch it on my television. I go pull it up on there.
So. Yeah, exactly. But also give one more shout out to organicpricebooks.com. Again, use that as our official sponsor. We thank JP and the OPB. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. Again, thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet or email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions, fact or fictions. Really appreciate that. Continue to rate and review this podcast on its dedicated feed or the GUA network feed on Apple Podcasts, whichever platform of choice you may listen to. Again, thank you all for joining us. A lot of great discussion in the chat with Shang-Chi. Thank you all for coming out to listen live. For those of you listening it on the audio feed in the morning, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, we had one idea. We had 2 ideas for end credits at this point. However, a third came along, and I'm just going to let you take it because
along came a spider.
I'm excited about this, but you, my friend, are probably the most excited about this.
I love Ben Reilly, and he is coming back in October, which means January for those of us who read on Marvel Unlimited. But regardless, He is coming back, and I am so excited about this. Amazing Spider-Man 74, though he's going to be in the Free Comic Book Day issue too, apparently, or at least some setups related. We've got several writers coming. That's going to be a 3 times a month book. Kelly Thompson, Saladin Ahmed, Cody Ziegler, and Patrick Gleason, definitely some names there. And I know Ahmed's been writing Miles Morales, and he's got some stuff. I've not gotten to read any of those his clone saga yet, but I like my clones. I'm one of those people who likes the clone saga. I'm looking forward to that one. But Ben, he's coming back, and he came back in Clone Conspiracy, and I like it. I'm like, I'm in. I'm all that stuff. I eat it up. And then he gets his own book, and it's him written by Peter David. And I'm like, this is going to be great. And it wasn't. And I'm like, I can't even admit. At the end, I'm like, I'm glad it's done, but I'd be buying it to this day. Like I would probably, I don't know if I'd be buying it to this day because now I'm fully unlimited, but I would definitely be reading it continuously. It's like, if they put him in it, I will read it. I will absolutely do so. It just wasn't a great run. This, I'm excited to see. What was your reaction? Like we had all the teasers yesterday and the news today. What were you thinking?
I loved it how it kind of came kind of organically in our chat because it came about saying, has anyone been seeing this image going around? And we're just like, yeah, we've seen it. We see the hashtag. Is it fan art? Is it something like that? And then we see, I think it was the Mary Jane and Peter being beaten up at that
Yeah,
point.
like, but it's
Looking,
like it's like the upside down kiss pose.
yeah, but it's something like, oh, maybe it's just something interesting. Someone's fooling around. And then we saw the image of what we all seen before, Ben Riley with mask off. It's a very famous image from his own run at
Mm-hmm.
that point. And then we see the symbol, and we're just like, okay, something's going on. Ben Riley is obviously having some sort of thing. Is this, are we? And so then we find out that we were going to get this news today. I love the kind of description of it when it says, this Spider-Man 75. We talked about Nick Spencer's run is coming to an end with 74. Some of us are like, can you just give him 75? It's really better to say, hey, I did 75 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, but he's at a 74, but it says number
He
75.
had some point numbers in there.
He
So I
he
mean,
did.
he did about, you count the issues, he's done more than that.
Yes, but when you get that qualifying, that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But the saga will kick off, as you said, Amazing Spider-Man. This is what got me, where Ben Riley will return to take back the mantle of Spider-Man, backed by the Beyond Corporation. The captivating clone of Peter Parker is determined to be the best version of Spider-Man there ever was. And as yesterday's teaser shows, this could have some fatal consequences for Peter Parker.
Does he want to be superior?
Oh, ooh, my spider senses are tingling with that.
I mean, obviously, it's temporary. Peter will be back by the end of the story. The main Peter Parker won't be the clone, but I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. It's like I don't think he's been in an issue since the Peter David run ended. If he has, I missed it, and I'd like to go back and read it.
Yeah, I don't think he has in this way. And he kind of goes on saying the whole point of working with Spider-Man is trying to put new unliftable weights on top of him, physical, metaphysical, emotional, psychological, and seeing if he can lift them. But what if that weight truly is too heavy? What if someone with the exact same skills in formative years could do better? Ben Riley is back, and with Aunt May and Uncle Ben's lessons in the back of his mind, he's here to step in where Peter has failed.
When Clone Conspiracy ended, like, he was a villain, right? Like, he had been driven mad by basically dying and being reborn tons and tons and tons of times.
Because he took in that kind of the anti-hero Scarlet Spider.
Yeah, he tried. He was sort of starting to reform a little in the Peter David run. So who knows where he's at here? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, whatever it is, fine. You stick Ben Riley in the book. I want to read it. But I'm like, okay, he thinks he can do it better. So it's like, is he trying to push Peter out? But then, well, that doesn't feel like Aunt May and Uncle Ben's memories are rooting around too far in there, if that's the way he's acting.
Yeah.
So, we will find out. And in the grand scheme of things, it really won't be that long until I can read it on Unlimited. So it's great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying the current Spider-Man run. At the same time, I'm ready for the next run. Like, I feel like I've kind of had my Nick Spencer fill overall. I'm ready for the next run, and man, did this catch my attention.
Yep. There's always something doing. When you come with Spider-Man, clones can't be far behind. So, yes. But yeah. So we are already plotting in the GUA chat about how we're going to work this at that point, because I think all of us are, number of us, including Mr. Snell, are big fans of Ben Riley, including, as he pointed out, he purposely dyed his hair to imitate and to be like Ben Riley. So again, he is that dedicated at that point. So stay tuned. We got a couple of months to see how this all shapes out at that point, but we're going to be doing something to cover this. So, but all right, y'all stay safe out there, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Brent will see you in a week. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.